Hello, everyone. This is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about Democrats are in trouble. They got some internal polling from the DCCC, and which is like the arm of like the sort of the fundraising and planning and stuff for like the House, and they are screwed according to their polling. Swing state voters are upset. They're got a lot of people who think that COVID, their lockdown measures went too far. And also, they are losing the culture war as well, which I don't know, anyone with a brain could have told you that that sort of thing was going to happen. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about this fabulous video that I already shared on my Facebook page, so maybe you've seen it, of this dad going all in on CRT and just explaining why it's bad. But more people are waking up to it. There are still some like holdouts of people who just believe it is honest history, which he put it he put it so well, and that's why I want to go over it and share it and watch it with you guys, because he really just summed it up. If you believe what it espouses, then he says then you're a liar, because you know from your lived experiences dealing with people day to day that you don't think everyone is racist, that everyone is oppressed and everyone is an oppressor, and that people can't succeed in this country. That is your opinion that you're trying very hard to cook up, but that is not the reality when you look at the greatness of America itself. Anyone can succeed in America. And so we're just going to go over that. Also, BLM, they bailed out a man, but we've been talking about for the past few days, that tried to kill a mayor candidate. So, and he was running for city council. So BLM, the bail was set for $100,000, and they got him out of there. I guess it should have been higher. The lawyer tried to get it lower, and the judge was like, nah, he's got mental health problems, it seems. And they got him out. A man who tried to kill a person running for mayor, who's also running for city council. And BLM like had some crazy tweets. If you guys, it's not the main BLM, it's BLM in Louisville. So go ahead and read through some of their tweets. Because I don't know if all the ones that I originally saw were there. Now, I was trying to find them for you guys, but I do have them on my phone, a few that I screenshot. But essentially, it seems like they want to abolish the police as well, which this is probably no shock to you guys. But they're like, when you get arrested and you go to jail, they're like, your civil liberties are gone and your human rights are gone. And you don't want people to be treated, super terrible in prison. But, I mean, when you have due process, there's some of your rights that can get taken away once you actually gone through that process. That's why you should try to not overstep anyone else's rights, in this particular case of the right to life, because he tried to murder someone, and everything. Those things seem relevant. Those things seem important. But, I hate is a strong word, and it's appropriate. I hate Black Lives Matter, the organization and the movement, what they stand for, the lies that they've pushed, the damage that they've done, the delusional armies of folks that they've raised, especially you white sucker saviors. So it gives me glee that people are waking up, but darn every single person who's given these people a dime, every person who's did a hashtag, a share that raised more attention and social pressure. Not all of you believed all this stuff. Not all of you were like, oh, I'm secretly racist because I'm white. That's what they're all telling me, so I have to say it. No, you all didn't believe that, but you got pressured into saying that. There's this great video that went around. I want to share it with you guys one day, of this former Democrat. Left her tag on TikTok, I think, is like leftist dropout. She's been following me, but she has some great content. But she said like what really radicalized her was the George Floyd stuff. But eventually she was like, you know what, I kind of got sick of lying to myself all the time. And she's like, I like deep down, I didn't think I was really a racist, but that's what we had to say. And so some people brought really like, no, she's racist because white people have this internalized racism, inherent bias, implicit bias, blah, 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 and all this kind of other stuff. But she's like, you were forced to say these things because of the pressure of saying them, and they weren't even true. And when she started talking more to conservative people, they had their facts to back them up. They had data and all this other stuff, and she could not argue properly because all she had was her feels. And then eventually she, was like, I can't take it anymore, and she allowed herself to be red pilled. So it's a very fascinating video. One day will share it with you. But I know it was refreshing to me. It was refreshing to me to hear that, because I know all these people didn't really believe this garbage, but you just felt pressured to say it. You just felt pressured. So all you people who supported BLM, and maybe you knew that it wasn't great, and then there are people who are like, well, I'm not supporting the group, I'm just supporting the movement. It's like, who that is their hashtag. That's their hashtag. That's their movement. That's what they started. And even the movement is the premise of it is false. Not that it's false that Black Lives Matter, because they matter just as much as every other life. And that's why people got mad when you say all lives matter are dumb. And I wrote an article about that on blacktnews.com. But it's this idea that black people are being hunted down to be killed by the police. It's not true. We already talked about a lot about that guy from Reuters who got canned because he had the data, and he was their data scientist they had for 6 years. But they canned him because he could prove that BLM has done more harm than good. So, I like trashing BLM. And I don't mind telling you I told you so. I do not mind it. It was a trash group. 2020 was so frustrating for me. So anyway, before we jump into all of that, didn't mean to go off on a little tiff. I do want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out content that I have on the website. I do want to also thank Brighter Michigan PAC. I'm here in their studio today, so I thank them. If I say something today that triggers you, they don't care, I don't care. It doesn't work like that. I'm just here spreading conservative messages, and I'm grateful to them that I had this platform to do this. Well, it's their platform, it's my platform, but the space here, particularly today, to work. So thank you to Brighter Michigan PAC. There's no one to cry to. I am the person who runs things here, and I don't care if you're angry. I do not. Please go check out other stuff on the website as well, like this I Am Not the Victim You're Looking For t-shirt. Be Better, Not Better. This Defeat Joe Biden, Denounce White Supremacy shirt with racist stuff that he's done on the back. And we got, of course, like the GOAT hoodie. You guys can check that out. Also, I did release a book this month on, it was Monday, as a matter of fact, called Anubis, the Princess of the Damned. It is a vampire paranormal romance fiction book. So if you enjoy that sort of thing, and there's someone else who likes that sort of thing and would like to support, go ahead and get it. I thank everyone who has thus far. You guys can find that stuff on, if you go to blacktnews.com, hit the merchandise button, there is a banner that will bring you to Ninja Disc Publishing. But if you just search my name on Amazon, I have several books. That's my 15th book that I released. So consider picking that up, because you guys, you support people, organizations like Disney and Marvel and all these people who hate you and hate everything you stand and love and live for, and they will continue to indoctrinate your kids, but you still love that stuff anyway. So how about, instead of supporting those people, that you put some money into some people who aren't gonna run you out of existence and indoctrinate your kids. So just my little thought. Just my little thought there. Someone says yay, Anubis, yay. Yes, thank you, whoever you are. But some people did buy it, so I thank you guys, and it does help my ranking and stuff. So appreciate if you guys got that, and you can get it on Kindle, you can get it on which is like Amazon Kindle. You can get Kindle Unlimited, so if you have that subscription, you can read right through it. I still get paid and all that stuff if you do read through the pages, and it's also available on paperback. So check that out, and I thank you guys. Also, if you would like to support Black Teen News, you can go to blackteennews.com/donate. If you like what I do here and want to, continue seeing it going and helping it grow, I got some good things that I'm excited to announce to you guys very soon. I know I'm teasing, but I'm excited, and I just want to at least say I'm excited. There's good stuff coming down, so you just gotta wait a little bit on that. And for people who ask, because I did announce yesterday, I didn't have a show yesterday. Nothing like bad was going on, but my sister just had a baby, and she has, her she's been in the hospital because she had to have a C-section, and her husband's been with her, and he's not allowed to leave, like, even the room. He has to stay there. So we've been, watching her kids, and I had to, like, help her son with school and stuff like that, because it's like he has, like, public school, but it's like online public school. So and it's always been that way. It's sort of like a homeschool, but it's public school. So anyway, that's what I was doing. And these kids have it so easy, or can have it so easy, and he was complaining about, like, I hate school, I don't want to do this. And I'm just like, boy, like, we had to march in the snow on the way to snowbanks and all this other stuff to get there in the cold. And I'm just like, you just go to your little computer and get to have your fun time with your friends, eating your hot Cheetos. So shush your mouth, little Daniel. I love him, though. I love him. So anyway, we just been helping my sister out. I have not been able to hold my little nephew yet, but I did show you guys a little picture of him. He's adorable. I will show you guys. It's I don't have it, like, arranged correctly. So in the middle there he is, little Noah. He's so cute. He's so cute. He's so cute. He's so cute. So I can't wait to hug him, to hold him. The little clump of cells there. Anyway, let's just jump right into the news. I want to start with this story with the Democrats being utterly and completely screwed, because that's funny enough. So we have SF Gate, which covers, like, news in California and, like, the Bay Area. They got some internal polling of Democrats that are showing shows swing voters believe that the party went too far on COVID, and some other issues, like, I suppose, like CRT. The stuff on CRT is very, very funny to me. It's amusing to me. It's very amusing to me, and I'll get to why it's amusing when we get to that part of the article. But FYI, I have been to, like, Republican meetings, and where they've had, like, internal sort of polling, and they've showed you, like, this is what we found out, this is what we've learned, and they'll, like, get polling companies, or they'll have internal data or whatever that they'll get assemble this stuff. Usually if it's, like, a local sort of party or state party or something, maybe they'll hire somebody out. And other bigger organizations will hire other people out, but they do have, like, internal data, like at the RNC and stuff levels. But so different groups will have data, and they will have, like, internal conversations with their base, with other, like, Congress people, with other, activists, to let them know what's going on and kind of what the talking points need to be and how things kind of need to shift. So I'm familiar with how that sort of works, and I don't know how they're going to spin this and how they're going to change things. And they could just march forward and continue and just lie to people on the outside and let them continue pushing this nonsense. But they could, like, try to knock everybody in the head and move away from this stuff. But I don't know if they have that in them. I think they'll just maybe hold tighter to the tyrannical arms, and just be worse instead of going on a path that makes sense. Just hunker down. Like, for example, in Florida, they have a bill that is about parental protection for their kids. In the bill, it's essentially, hey, if your child, like, a school cannot withhold information if a child, if it's something related to their mental health, and teachers can also not discuss, like, sexual orientation or gender identity in a way that is inappropriate for grade school children. And so that sounds reasonable, and that's a reason why it's reasonable. For example, is there's a school out in California where there are teachers who preyed on this kid who was like 12. She was a girl. They convinced her she was a boy. They changed her pronouns. They didn't alert the parents. They changed her medical records. And when the parents came to the school so they could break it to the parents that, hey, your son's your daughter's a son, they didn't respond the way that they wanted them to respond. And they were mad at the parents, and now the child was like suicidal. At least that's what the parents were saying. So withholding that kind of information is not appropriate. I saw a TikTok, by the way, of a teacher who said that they have a special closet that children, if they're a particular gender but they don't want to tell it to their parents, they can bring their clothes to school, I guess, a different change of clothes, or they can have a different change of clothes, and they can go in the special closet and then change in whatever their identity affirms them in. Now, just as I'm not a parent, but just like I want to be one day, and even not having a child that is mine right now, just kind of tapping into those future maternal feelings just enrages me. Just the thought that there would be a teacher, some kind of authority figure like that, just plotting behind my back to sow those seeds of division between me and my child. It just enrages me. It enrages me beyond. Let's see if it just wasn't about gender. What if it was just your child? You don't let them wear skirts that are too short, and then they go in the special closet so they can rebel against mom and dad. That is infuriating. So anyway, you have these activist teachers who do not understand there's a big, bold line between what they're supposed to do and what the parents are supposed to do. So you have this bill in California that says, hey, there are certain things that parents are supposed to discuss with their children, and you're not supposed to do that, and you cannot withhold this information. You cannot make some kind of rules to withhold this information, and if parents find out that you're withholding things from them, they can come against you in some kind of legal fashion. That doesn't sound like too bad of a bill, but this is what the Democrats decided to do. This is what the media decided to do, and all their activist lackeys. They decided to call this parental bill that's for the welfare, the mental health of the children, the Don't Say Gay bill. That's what they referred to it as. And they're referring it to that, hoping that no one else goes and reads the bill. And they are trying to stoke these fears that people had before gay marriage was legal, and try to re-engage the whole entire LGBTQ plus IP confused, whatever the rest of the stuff is, to be against the Republicans trying to get this passed. So it's a war against them rather than looking at, oh, this is about parents and their children and their mental health. So it's a Don't Say Gay bill. They want to make it illegal to say gay. There's a video, I played it for you guys, of a guy who has, I think, 4.5 million followers on TikTok. And he's like, don't say gay, don't say gay. What about free speech? Totally going off on his delusion about what he thinks it's about. And he has clips in his video, not of the bill, of what other activists have said about the bill, continuing to spread misinformation. So I think there's enough informed people in California, in Florida, who like their governor, who like the direction of where they're going there, who like that they're more free than everybody else. The United States and Florida. Right now, maybe give Texas a run for the money. I don't know. They're going to be informed about that. So I don't think Democrats phrasing it in the particular way that they want to phrase it is going to make a dent, especially in Florida. Maybe they think it'll make a dent in other places. But I don't know. A lot of people are really tired of their tactics. They tried really hard to save CRT, save the image of CRT, but they're trying to shift a little bit. They are still trying to defend it, don't get me wrong, but they're shifting the tactics of diversity, equity, inclusion. So they're going by that name as opposed to being like, oh, there's CRT. Well, first they were saying it wasn't in the schools. They were saying it wasn't in the schools, but they were mad that people were trying to ban it. But if it's diversity, equity, inclusion stuff, that's CRT. It is. It absolutely is. So, so I think the Democrats are just going to find new ways to play dumb. I don't think they're going to straighten up and fly right. I don't think that's what they're going to do. So anyway, let's get to this article. So again, the DCCC has, which is the main campaign arm for the House Democrats, and again, I've been through situations where I've sat down in these kind of trainings, and they tell you what's going on and what the people are thinking, what the messaging sort of needs to be, and it is jarring sometimes, like for people when they look at that polling and what they think as an activist is different than what's actually, for the rest of the people going, out there. Like, for example, when polling would show that Trump had a problem with white suburban women who liked Trump and were hardcore Republican activists, it was hard for them to correlate that. They're like, what do you mean? I'm a white woman. I love Trump. Like, good for you. This is the data. This is the data. So sometimes, even when people see data, they don't know how to accept it too. So again, I don't know how Democrats are going to relate to this information, but they are in trouble. So findings from the poll were presented to the DCCC officials Thursday morning. One slide in the presentation, which was shared with SF Gate by someone who attended the presentation, but they're, keeping that under wraps, said many of the Republican attacks tested have alarming credibility, including Republican attacks on COVID-19 policy. The poll found that 57% of voters in competitive congressional districts agree with the statement Democrats in Congress have taken things too far in their pandemic response, and 66% of self-defined swing voters in competitive districts agree with that statement. White and Hispanic voters in competitive districts were equally as likely to agree, 59%, while black voters, 42%, and Asian voters, 46%, disagreed with the statement. The poll also did not define what has taken things too far. So, it could mean the lockdowns, it could mean the mandates, it could mean the OSHA stuff, the healthcare. The fact that it's gone on for so long, we're not sure. It didn't define that. The DCCC found that the critiques of the COVID-19 restrictions were slightly less potent than other issues. In swing districts, 64% of voters agreed with the statement that Democrats in Congress supporting defunding the police and taking more cops off the street. The internal poll found that 80% of self-defined swing voters in competitive districts agreed with the statement Politico previously reported on the DCCC, warning about the effectiveness of what they refer to as conservative culture war attacks. 62% of voters in contested districts agreed with the statement Democrats in Congress have created a border crisis that allows illegal immigrants to enter the country without repercussions and grants them taxpayer-funded benefits once here. 78% of swing voters in those districts agreed. Wow. That's a problem. That is a big problem, because you'll have white people, black people, Hispanic people, like people, and especially like immigrants who came here legally, who got a problem with the immigration issue, for sure. Especially if people believe that people are coming in to take their jobs too, and that they're getting benefits. They in trouble. 61% of the swing district voters agreed with the statements Democrats in Congress are spending money out of control. By the way, I just want to point out there, Jen Psaki had an interview one time or it was a press briefing, and she was explaining, they're talking about inflation, and she's like, well, Biden is only, like, this year of Biden, he's only, like, responsible for, like, I don't know if it was 10% or 5% of, like, the national debt or something. And I'm like, I don't think that's a flex, because, it's only been a year, and it just seems still like, there's been other people who's been like before him. So, and he's still got 3 more to go. It just didn't seem like a flex, but Jen is Jen. They gotta spin that whatever way that they can. They gotta spin that whatever way that they can. 61% of swing voters. I'm sorry, I already read that. Oh, here's one. So, okay, let me read that whole paragraph. 61% of swing district voters agreed with the statements. Democrats in Congress are spending money out of control, and Democrats are teaching kids as young as 5 critical race theory, which teaches that America is a racist country and that white people are racist. And 59% agreed with the statement. Democrats are too focused on pursuing an agenda that divides us and judging those who don't see things their way. So what's really funny about the CRT thing that I want to bring up is, as you guys know, and I've said it many times, and if you can go read about this on blacktnews.com, that last year I did go to a Democrat Party picnic, and I got into it with the Democrat Party chair, and it was a discussion. It wasn't like a kind of thing, but she had mentioned critical race theory, so I wanted to confront her about it, and I said, and she didn't know I was a Republican, by the way. No one knew I was a Republican. So I asked her, I'm like, is this a road that, I said, is this a hill that Democrats want to die on? Because I've seen some polling and it doesn't look good in the end, because you have white voters, Hispanic voters, Asian voters, they all think that CRT is bad. The only people who think it's okay are black voters right now. But as people learn more about it, I think they're going to turn toward not liking it. And so she's like, it's just racism. I said, no. CRT is racist. So I began to explain to her the issues with critical race theory. And then I said, I don't know how much you know about it. And she admitted, she's like, I don't know a lot about it. She's like, I haven't looked into it. She admitted. And so as I continue going more talking about it, she's like, the people who go to these school board meetings, I've seen into their eyes, the depths of their soul, and they're racist. They're racist. So I don't know why she believes, and maybe this works on other people who are Democrats who she knows, that she could throw out the word racist and my black powers would just activate. I just start to shaking and be like, oh my gosh, the Republicans are racist, therefore I must abandon all logic. No, that's not what happens to me, at least. Because she admitted she didn't know what she was talking about, but I knew what I was talking about, right? So there's that. And just calling the people you don't like racist should not work. Should not work. But of course, I also have the benefit of knowing some of the people that she's talking about. So she's offensive and she's a liar who's judging people. And that's also funny about this polling, where 59% agreed with the statement, Democrats are too focused on pursuing an agenda that divides us and judging those who don't see things their way. So if you don't agree with us, you're a bad person. Biden, like, oh, if you don't agree with these voting bills we're passing, you're on the side of the racists and the segregationists, even though he was on the side of the racists and the segregationists. So I don't know, maybe he knows. Maybe it's just experience, like, tingling in his old fuzzy little brain. And so I was a little stunned for a second. I was trying to gather my thoughts a bit. And I said, okay, but can't you look past the people and just look at the issue? Now, doesn't that sound like a logical thing? Doesn't that sound like a logical request that any logical person would ask? Like, can't we just look at the issue? And then she just got, tired and was like, I just need people to run for school board. Like, oh, so you were full of crap the whole time. Okay. So I'm glad that people are seeing that they are pursuing something foolish. Well, I don't know if the Democrats are realizing that. By all means, they can keep doing this. By all means, they can keep being morons. They can keep pushing division. Because people, I don't want them to, because I don't want our country to continue to be divided. But I'm glad that there's people who are waking up to the fact that they're the ones being divisive. And you can't just continue to just malign everyone who you have a disagreement with. And it is annoying dealing with people who do feel that way. But that's not everybody. And that's not all Democrats. I'm glad to know it's not all Democrats, and they're polling people who are sick of it. They're polling people who are sick of it. Or maybe they're not sick of it, and they're just like, oh, that's just what we do. Who knows? Who knows? But it does make me feel better to at least be a little optimistic that not everyone is crazy. So I think that's going to cause a huge problem with them. And I was really glad to hear about the CRT stat. Really glad to hear about that. So I don't think that they're going to be changing courses. And I think it's in California. I think it was San Francisco. Their school board, they had 3 people recalled. 3 people recalled. They were locking down schools, teaching this garbage stuff, renaming schools. People just had enough. So they can happen in California, which you guys should have recalled Newsom. That's what you should have did. But at least some people got recalled there. Maybe people needed to see that things would still get a little bit worse. And maybe they had to have another, oh shoot, we screwed up moment. Who knows? But maybe they will finally wake up. Now, if they want a new governor, they needed to do it. Then it'll be really hard when the, general regular election comes up. But some people are waking up. A lot of people are waking up. I want to play this video, guys, for you. And I'm sure some of you guys saw it on Facebook. But, man, this parent just went all in about CRT. And it was glorious. Absolutely glorious.
Discrimination resolution, the CRT deal, because it's happening. And as a parent, I speak to other parents. There's a few things that we don't want. I'm biracial, I'm bilingual, I'm multicultural. The fact is, in America, in North Carolina, I can do anything I want, and I teach that to my children. And the person who tells my little pecan-colored kids that they're somehow oppressed based on the color of their skin would be absolutely wrong and absolutely at war with me. And I think that's the same for every parent. What the mask showed us is that the parents, the most powerful group of people in our country, that they're taking back the wheel. Now, obviously, we had to take the wheel back for the mask, but we're taking the wheel back from Washington all the way to Raleigh and into our local school board. Because CRT, all of that, the parents don't want it. It's a big fat lie. There's not one, if you believe in CRT, I want to tell you you're a liar. Because that means you look at your black neighbor and say that they're oppressed, and you look at your white neighbor and say that they're evil, regardless of the experience that you've had with them. And we're not going to do that. The parents in the United States of America, right here in North Carolina and Cabarrus County, we know that's not true because we believe the lives we live. The fact is, I've been a business owner right here in North Carolina, and I deal with white people, black people, Hispanic people. My children deal with everybody. And the racism is only happening at the government level and on the media. The fact is, you have racists, and there's you can't even find them hardly. You just hear the stories about them. But this is what we're dealing with.
So I want to stop right there for a second. So he's just like, there is a longer version of this. With this, I think he got to speak for full 3 minutes. I have 2 minutes and 20 seconds because I pulled this from Twitter. But what he said, if you believe in CRT, then you are a liar because you have black neighbors who are not oppressed. It's so interesting when I see someone who's verified Twitter checkmark or someone who's a black person, oh, we're so oppressed. One time there was a news anchor, and she's a female news anchor, and I retweeted at her. I was like, can you tell me how you're oppressed? How you are specifically oppressed? And then they try to wiggle all around it, but I'm just like, well, how are you oppressed or are you not oppressed? How come you cannot explain to me? Or when people would get offended if I say I'm not oppressed. I'm like, well, can you, white person, explain to me how I, a black person, am oppressed today in modern America, 2022? Can you explain that? And they don't want to. They get offended deeper. They just keep digging a well of trying to reach a facts with their offended shovel, and they just keep digging, and there's no way out of it. You're not going to find any facts down there. I'm sorry. That well is dry. It's so dry. And then there's white people that you know who are good white people who are not oppressing people. And you can say, that's not what CRT is. CRT teaches that racism is just the normal. You remember Obama saying racism is just in like America's DNA. Like that's the sort of mentality that racism is just the normal. We have these systems of power. And even though white people may claim that they want to get rid of that, deep internally, why would they want to? Why would they want to? They benefit from it. So I think there's some things that are in CRT that are contradictory, like at the same time you have the race is a construct, and yes, it's true. But then they're like, you have to listen and affirm these people of different racial groups. And you probably remember like white fragility and all that sayings that people were saying, just listen and affirm, just listen and affirm, listen and affirm. What if they're lying? What if they're wrong? I just want to say that I absolutely despise like when people talk about like their lived experiences, as whoever like started that did us no favors in the world, because everyone has a lived experience. If you've lived, you have a lived experience. What does that even mean? Like, I know what it means, but you elevate it as if that's like the end all be all. It's anecdotal evidence. And it's not invalid because it's anecdotal, but you have to weigh that against other things. Because here's the issue. If you run into someone else who has also lived experiences and it runs contrary to your lived experience, you would invalidate their lived experience. Because if I say I'm not oppressed, people will say that's just your experience. And your experience is your experience. Again, anecdotal. That's why you have to look at things on a larger scale. And for example, he said in that video, people are talking about racism, but you have to go and find it. There's so many like hate hoaxes and stuff that were coming out, and you look a little deeper and it's not true, it's not real. Everyone was so gung-ho to jump on this Jussie Smollett story, even that sounded ridiculous. It sounded absolutely ridiculous, like this is just what happens in Trump's America. And it was a farce. Everyone involved in that, everyone who retweeted that, everyone who affirmed, just shut up and listen and affirmed Jussie Smollett. You guys are fools. Again, some people have a skewed sense of the world. You can't just listen and affirm everything. You can trust, but you got to verify. Some people are lying to you. Jussie Smollett lied to you. Lied to everyone. And you can be like, wow, that's messed up. He lied to us. It wasn't a plausible story. It was never a plausible story. And then when he got charged and the charges were dropped, like there were people like, oh my gosh, look, the charges on Jussie got dropped, and you guys try to doubt him, blah blah blah. Yep, and it turns out you were still the fool. You were still the fool. And Jussie's not the only story. Like people were there's the Bubba Wallace noose thing. He thought there was a noose in his garage when it's just a door pull. And they sent like 7 FBI agents to check it out. No, it wasn't a hate crime. It was just them concerned and confused. And then they recently did ESPN did a video on Bubba and his career, and they had this whole dramatic scene about it. And he's like, I'm not going to forget the people who didn't stand by me or didn't say something. I'm just like, but you were wrong. You're going to hold a grudge because people didn't validate your feelings that weren't rooted in reality? That's crazy. That is crazy. The reason why people talk about all these lived experiences and want to focus on the past is because for some reason we have created a world in which your oppression and your negativity and your suffering and your trauma, that you find validation in that. And people find more validation in their tribulations and their trials more than they find in testimonies and overcoming those things. So now we're at the point where people will look at their microaggressions. They want to be so microscopic with their issues that we have to focus on these microaggressions to the point where Disney will teach your children about microaggressions. There's the little white child says to a black child, "You're darker than I am." Now that's just using your eyes and talking out loud and stating the obvious. And they had a little black girl who was like, "Hey, that's a microaggression. Did that hurt your feelings?" You know, my sister, she has small children. Oldest is 6, Daniel, and the girls are 4 and 3, and she just had her new baby, who's a boy. But anyway, if kids, sometimes when they fall into something, you know, they fall down, and your reaction as an adult might be like, "Oh," or something, because you know if they're okay. And if you freak out, they will freak out, and then they'll start crying. But sometimes if you're like, you're okay, you won't hear a tear. Not because they didn't hurt themselves, not because it didn't wound them, but because they realize it's not as bad as it could have been. It's not as bad as I was going to make it out, and I can get through this. But if you're freaking out, and you're making a big deal out of it, they'll make a big deal out of it. And if you encourage them that they can move on, they will move on. Now, it depends how bad the injury is, okay? If they are injured, you know, you got to take care of that. I'm just talking about the psychology. You witness it all the time. So many people want to make such a big deal out of stuff. But if you don't agree with them, oh my gosh, they are vicious on you. They are vicious on you. I shared a video of a TikTok because I address someone every night, and I know I'm like getting way off the kind of beaten path with the rest of this video, but every night they go on TikTok live and they talk about why you should not use adoption as an option for mothers as opposed to abortion. So I hear that and I'm like, people who are adopted don't have value because they're better off dead. Because abortion, you're dead. You don't get to live out your life. You don't make it out the womb. No lived experiences for them. So she does that every night. And I've seen her argue with people sometimes, and I don't think it's coming from a place of sincerity, but we're an adopted person too. And I think a lot of it's pain, and a lot of these people are not well. And my heart breaks for them, but I also don't appreciate people who are not well telling other people who are not well to go out and go kill their kids. I would like it to stop. So anyway, I commented on it, and about how you cannot breed out suffering. That's what eugenics were trying to do, by the way, breed out suffering for people who they thought they could do that by, limiting the population of the poor, of minorities, of the feeble-minded. But you can't guarantee that any child, even if they grow up in a 2-parent home, that they will not have some kind of suffering, that they will not have some kind of trauma or tragedy. So saying that you should eliminate or abort people who would be adopted, because why would you want them to live a life full of trauma? How do you know that will be the case? When you can't guarantee that someone, when a mother decides to keep them, and even if they have a husband and it seems like they have a happy life, that they won't face some kind of trauma internally from the family or from forces outside. So it's not a good reason to kill people. And I did also mention that I think people uphold their tragedy too much. Because you're talking about, so I brought up that when I was young, I had 3 cousins who died in a fire. And it was very hard for the family. I was very young. I have brief memories of my cousins who passed away. But obviously that was very hard for my family, very hard for my older siblings, my dad, the church in general. But of course for my aunt and uncle and my cousin who's older than me, who was the lone survivor. And I said, by the grace of God, they were able to get through it. And people, someone in the comments was like, oh, she talks about trauma and how we should, and other people playing trauma Olympics, and then she brought up her dead family. And I'm like, what is wrong with people? What is wrong with people? I'm like, I just believe that you shouldn't end someone's life because of suffering, and that there's still value in it. There's still value in your life. So, again, there's a lot of unwell people. I was talking to someone else who had an abortion, who's now pro-life. She believed it was a clump of cells and all this stuff, believed the lies, and eventually it hit her a couple years later, the regret. And so when she goes on lives and talks to these kind of people, they invalidate her experience. Or some people are mad when she shares her experience because she could be stopping people from having abortions. I mean, that's her goal, because she would like to not see children killed, and she would like to save another woman that sort of pain, of regret. Because it didn't hit her at first. It took some time. It took some time. But they invalidate her experience. So these people who say lived experiences, and that's CRT and all that stuff, it embraces subjectivity. That's what that's about. But if someone comes along and it's not their worldview, they want to push you out. There's a show, I think it's Showtime, maybe. There's a documentary about America and the perspective of black people. It's really, really racist. Let me see if I can just find the title real quick. Just bear with me. It's called like Dear White People or something. And they got like, everything's gonna be all white is what it's called. Everything's gonna be all white. Go watch the trailer. A friend of mine did watch the first episode, and she was like, man, it was one of the most racist things she's ever seen. But she pointed out that these people talk about it from the black person perspective, the people of color perspective. And she's like, who gets to define that? Because you have these people speaking for black people, and what they're saying doesn't represent her, it doesn't represent me. So who gets to decide what's the black voice and whose lived experiences are legitimate? And that's why Ben Shapiro's Facts Don't Care About Your Feelings is important. And that's why it was so catchy, because everyone has feelings, everyone has opinions, but what's the data? What's the reality? What are the actual facts? And are you looking deeper into it? Because causation and correlations, it doesn't, just because you see one thing kind of trailing and trending together doesn't mean that they're actually related. So you do have to actually analyze the data and make sure that it makes sense. And if it does, like the guy from Reuters who got canned for finding out that BLM did more harm than good, is causing more death and harm to black people than it should, and then everything they're talking about is based on falsehoods and lies, you get fired for the truth, because it does not bow to the subject reality of the dogma of the left. So, if you believe in CRT, you believe in lies. And the reality of you know white people who are not bad and oppressors. And you know that they have nothing to do with slavery or the systems that have been built. They don't even want to talk about individual races. They only want to talk about the systems. The systems. Because that's a bigger boogeyman for them to attack and to never really win against, I think. Unless they could tear everything down, which is the goal. But if they can indoctrinate as many people along the way on that mission. If you believe CRT, you believe in a lie. He just broke it down so great. Let's finish out this video.
The parents are taking the wheel. I have an 8-year-old daughter who is absolutely dynamic, who can do anything. Athletically, intellectually, spiritually, and emotionally, she is a dynamo. And I don't want a man swimming against her in the pool. The fact is, I don't want her playing against boys in soccer. I don't even let my sons rough her up. Do you think I'm going to let your son rough her up? This is what we're talking about. Policy going back to the parents. Because if you think people who love America are willing to fight for it, you haven't met parents yet. Because I'm telling you, parents will go further down any street than anyone who loves their country alone. My name is...
Oh gosh, it cut off before I said his name. So I'll have to look it up online. He did a great job. He did a great job. And we know we raise talented kids. You can raise a talented kid with a good head on their shoulders who are going to go places, and you make things happen for them. So people teaching that your kid is a victim, I'm like, well, that doesn't teach that. If it teaches that the whole system is out to get them, what do you think it's teaching? Giving them an unnecessary chip on their shoulder when they fail, an excuse to when they fail, an attitude, whether they fail or succeed, when you think the whole world's against you. Come on. Come on. So anyway, he did a great job. He did a fantastic job. Moving on, BLM, we've talked about this guy past couple days, when Defiant L's, who is a Twitter account who posts like past things and they of some kind of leftist, and then like a current thing that shows something contradictory. So he wrote this article, Quintez Brown, Kentucky's concealed law shows, gun laws show your life doesn't matter to gun-loving Republicans. And then, of course, he was someone who attempted to kill this mayor candidate, Greenberg, this Jewish man. And Quintez is someone who was running for city council. This is his Twitter page. We have one scientific and correct solution: Pan-Africanism, the total liberation and unification of Africa under scientific socialism. Yeah. So anyway, BLM in Louisville decided to bail him out. Here's Mitch McConnell talking a little bit about that.
An outright majority of Americans say crime has gotten worse in their area over the past year. Many Democrats have spent the last year and a half trying to defund police, smear law enforcement, and go soft on crime. As a result, innocent citizens have spent a year and a half watching murders, carjackings, and other violent crimes literally skyrocket. On Monday, in my hometown of Louisville, Kentucky, we were stunned by what appears to have been an assassination attempt against a Jewish mayoral candidate by a prominent far-left activist who previously called for defunding our police department. This far-left Black Lives Matter activist and defund the police cheerleader walked into a Jewish Democrats campaign headquarters and opened fire. Obviously, every aspect of this is still under investigation, including the suspect's mental condition. But guess what? He's already been let out of jail. Already let out of jail. A left-wing bail fund partnered with BLM Louisville to bail him out. Less than 48 hours after this activist tried to literally murder a politician, the radical left bailed their comrade out of jail. This is just jaw-dropping. The innocent people of Louisville deserve better. Since 2020, a long list of prominent corporations have donated or pledged enormous amounts of money to the radical nationwide BLM parent organization.
So, yeah, it is pretty jaw-dropping. As a matter of fact, when I first saw like the stories, like people tweeting about it, talking about it, I was like, that It wasn't like unbelievable, but I had to verify it because it's so crazy. It's so crazy, and that's true. And they're like bragging about it on Twitter, like, or at least defending it. And one of the tweets, I couldn't find this when I was like scrolling because I did want to show it on the screen, but I screenshot this on my phone because someone named Joe Gurr said, "I've got mixed feelings about Brown's release that I'll hopefully explore in a column soon, but what is the solution? Should bail be set so high that no one should get out? Should we do away with bail altogether?" And BLM Louisville said, "We should do away with jail altogether and fund the necessary preventable measures folks beg Louisville mayor budget every year." So I hate to be the one to break this to you. I hate to be the one to break this to BLM, but jail is a preventative measure for crime. I mean, not for the people who are going there. It's a little too late for them. But people knowing that they will face punishment for crimes is a surefire way. Well, not surefire, but you know, it leaves, you know, a little thought in their mind like, oh gosh, what if I get caught and have to go to jail? I mean, what is the alternative of when they commit crime? What happens to them? With just some good old fashioned community service? Is that what you do when you attempt murder? Is that what you do when you attempt murder? You don't go to jail? I wonder how many tweets BLM Louisville has about Kyle Rittenhouse and his time in jail. I wonder how much money they raised for him to get out. Of course, he's a white guy. And one tweet they did say something about, like, someone mentioned something about race, and like, well, we didn't say black. And it's like, come on. How many white people is BLM Louisville helping to bail out? Now, there's left-wing groups that don't like bail at all, and they just pay people's bails regardless of whatever they do. The Minnesota Freedom Fund that Kamala Harris promoted, that Steve Carell promoted, Harry Styles promoted, a bunch of other people retweeted, and people gave like crazy. They just bail out people regardless of whatever they're accused of because they just don't like bail, cash bail. And the lawyer was trying to get the bail lowered, and the judge was like, I don't know about that. I'm like, well, this is the first time he's, you know, shot and tried to kill somebody. This kind of seems like a big deal. But also they weren't aware of like his mental state because he like disappeared for a little bit and was found on a park bench. So people have questions. But they're like, well, it's not just a matter of, they're saying he needed help. He needed help. There's a lot of people who need help. He tried to kill someone, and now he's like out there. But we know that they're saying they want to get rid of jail. They want to get rid of jail. They tweeted about wanting to get rid of the 13th Amendment and all kinds of other stuff. So BLM's defending this. They not only did it, they're glad that they did it. This isn't like a lapse of judgment. That's what they did. So if you supported BLM, and of course this is the Louisville chapter, there's crazy chapters all over. Crazy activists that are into this stuff. I nowadays, like, everybody was into the BLM hashtags and all that kind of stuff, paying their penance so people knew that they weren't racist or that they were sorry for their white privilege. That was very big in 2020. Again, it was so frustrating, so annoying, and I know I was annoying to people because every time I saw that hashtag in my timeline, I was militant about it. And I let people know I wasn't happy and I didn't like it, and I thought that they were doing a bad thing. So I know people who were mad at me, my friends list, in 2020. And I was right the whole time. But nowadays, when I see people with BLM in their profiles, they are not sane, in my opinion. Or they're like really still, not all of them are crazy, but some of them are grifters, and some of them are, there's a lot of people who are still like so far into the ideology, and they do sometimes try to separate the movement from the group, but again, the movement is not grounded in reality. So please go read Zach Krugman's article on this that he in his Substack, the one that got him fired from Reuters for having data on the damage that BLM has done. Please go check that out. Please do. So Democrats are really in big trouble about all these issues, all these things, and they're going to keep they'll try to spin some things, in a certain way, but I think at the end of the day, they've gone down a path too far, and they give too much leeway to a lot of the radicals. I knew Biden, so many people wanted Biden to be this big moderate, and people thought he was going to be, and I knew he wasn't going to be because I could look at the sort of people he was surrounding himself and the sort of people he was hiring on his campaign trail. So I'm not surprised about the state of the world. I know other people are surprised, like, oh my gosh, if I had known, if you had researched, you would have known. And if some of you would have talked to people and not had like such hostility, like maybe you could have found out. And maybe we wouldn't be here. I wonder how things would be right now if Trump was still president. I mean, I know, I guess I wonder how much harder the Dems would have fought. Like, would stuff still be like on like harsher lockdowns? Would they be like, no, don't take the vaccines? Or would they be like, no, we need to take some of this now? I wonder how much they still would have continued to push on Trump if he had won. Like, would have been any sort of like working together, to get some of the COVID numbers down, to get the economy, try to get it on track? I mean, I think he would have really tried to push for people to open up, especially as the vaccines and stuff rolled out. But you may still have crazy governors doing stuff. But who knows? Who knows? Because in Michigan, we had really, really high cases, and there were people writing, like, Chad Livengood was like, where is Whitmer on this? Like, she was so, like, on this before, but now she's not, and our cases are higher. It's because she's not a moron, and she wants to be reelected. It's all politics. I'm sorry to burst your bubble if you didn't think it was. It's all politics. But thank you guys for joining me today. Sorry for first being a little bit late today, but I hope you enjoyed the tea. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different articles that I have on my website. Please check out articles like the one where I went to the Democrat Party picnic, and I do have articles on critical race theory. For example, I have one that's like, they're saying it's not in your schools. It is in your schools, but it's not just in your schools. It's worse than that. It's deeper than that. It's in your TV shows. It's in your place of work. It's everywhere. But I lay that down a little bit deeper and just ask the question, like, because they'll say like this is a college course. But it has an activist dimension to it, and they want to transform the world. So if you wanted to transform the world, would you just wait for your converts, your disciples, to just graduate high school, go to college, and then those people become a lawyer, and then those people take that class? Like, would you wait for all that to happen, or would you go other places and try to seep it in? You try to seep it in. So it breaks that down a little bit more, and there's an article that talks about more about what it is. So there's an article where I explain how you can see remnants of like see critical race theory throughout the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, or the coverage and stuff, for example. So there's a lot of good stuff you guys can check out on blacktnews.com, as well as different merchandise. I mentioned, what would have happened if Trump was still president. I had this, what I voted for Trump, and all I got was historic peace deals, border security, ISIS destroyed, energy independence, and all this other kind of stuff. So you guys can check out shirts like that. And also, you are not that special. More people need to know this today. I went in my big rant about victimhood and how people try to use their microaggressions and so on. So a lot of people need to know, like, you are special. You are such a special individual creature to the Lord. But not everyone in the world is knitted you in the womb, and you are not fearfully and wonderfully made by everyone. So, you find your identity and value in Christ or something, but you can't find it in your wounds like you can. You got to be a bigger person than that. So please check that out. I got the My Money, My Business shirt. I made this because I was sick of people telling me that, abortion's none of my business. I'm like, don't you want my taxpayer dollars? So, it goes with other issues. Someone got so mad at me the other day because they wanted, they're like, well, if you really care about lowering the number of abortions, you would support parental leave, minimum wage, free college, and some other stuff. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I was like, if I have to pay for your college, do I at least get to have any say on your degree? And they got so mad that I said that, and I'm like, and then they're like, well, do we have a say in your church because we subsidize that? I'm like, you don't give my church any money. You don't fund my church. But you want me to pay for your college? If you want the people's money, you don't think they get to have a say? If you want independence, you have to be independent, okay? So anyway, there's that kind of stuff on the site, and please check out some of my books that I've written, like Anubis is my new book, but also it is Black History Month. Some time ago, not many years ago, but some time ago, I did write The Color of God's Eyes, and I have a sequel out to it called Song on the Devil's Lips, and this is a historical fiction fantasy book. So if you guys enjoy Civil War, history, and you also like superhero kind of stuff, like if you guys are big on Marvel and what the X-Men and stuff are, imagine that, but Civil War, Harriet Tubman kind of history stuff. So you guys can all find this stuff at ninjadustpublishing.com. That's my book website. But if you just go to blacktnews.com, if you go to merchandise and hit the banner up top, it will take you to my website. But again, if you just look at my stuff, I'm on Amazon. And so I have 15 books out. Most of them are fiction. Most of them are fiction. I have one nonfiction faith book. So check that out. And if you want to support blacktnews.com, go to blacktnews.com/donate to continue supporting what I do here. Thank you guys so much. And I will see you for Black Tea News on Monday at 4 p.m. with the news of the day. But, I sprinkle stuff throughout the week. So make sure you guys are checking me out. So God bless you guys. And I'll